of having rights, you push back against that and say, your rights, you have no rights, your powers come from me, and when those powers are abused, the people will take back those powers.
The power to tax is the power to destroy.
The bottom line here is that this demonstrates just the immense power that the Internal Revenue Service has over individual Americans and their ability to effectively exercise their First Amendment rights. One of the points that I raised today was that this is not a left or right, conservative or progressive issue, but an issue that impacts all of us for that very reason, that anybody can be targeted under this, and we should guard against that possibility.
I'm anti-impeachment, and I have two reasons, Joe and Biden. I think that it would be a significant downgrade on domestic and foreign policy to elevate Joe Biden to the presidency. So I think in the absence of the kind of totally engulfing scandal that incapacitates the president from doing his job, I think impeachment would be a mistake. I also think it's just not going to go in the Senate. Even if there's really compelling evidence that comes forth that there was some kind of criminal misconduct, and we don't have anything like that at the moment, I just can't imagine a scenario where Senate Democrats would go along with it. They've been so rigidly partisan. So I think the whole talk of impeachment is probably counterproductive. I think we should focus on the facts at hand, and we should focus on what I think is the real lesson from this, which is that the government is so big, nobody has a clue what's going on in it. It can't be managed, and it needs to be downsized significantly, not massively expanded with Obamacare.
It's you can call it incompetence, you can call it targeting, you can call it a persecutorial and totalitarian government. But no matter what, the big problem is big government.
So you think this is the biggest scandal of all that's going on right now?
I think this represents a direct threat. I mean, falling out of the sky because there are no air traffic controllers only affects air travelers. But the IRS targeting individuals and individual groups, that affects every American. You misspeak and you can get audited by the IRS. You can imagine the kind of stress and expense that puts on people. I think all Americans need to kind of sit up and take notice.
This whole administration has turned into a culture of corruption. And we're very, very concerned about the intimidation factors and literally going after groups because of their affiliation. The government is not supposed to do that, and they're definitely not looking out for the best interests of their citizens.
Effectively, the IRS was not just being used as a tool to harass groups that they disagreed with, but also effectively silence them ahead of the election because it prevented them from being able to legally contact voters.
All I know is that one of the articles of impeachment against Richard Nixon in the early 70s was his abuse of the IRS and using it to go after his political enemies. If it's proven that, for instance, if we find out that we know that there was this meeting between the head of the National Taxpayers Employee Union and the president the day before this targeting started. If we come to find out that at this meeting this issue was discussed and the president directed them to engage in this activity, then yes, this should certainly be an issue for impeachment. The real question then gets into this issue of how long the president's going to stonewall. And if there's anything that political history teaches us over the last century, it's that the truth will out, and stonewalling never helps any administration get out of a predicament.